Good afternoon. It's right at 12 noon and we're going to get started. Good afternoon. My name's Tom McCarthy and it's my pleasure to serve as a host for a very brief portion of this time today. We've got lots and lots of information to cover, so I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to let you know that this is one of our continuing series of webinars. We're not going to do one in July, but I would like you just to make note of Wednesday, 18th. It's a special webinar we're doing with the gals in mind. It's entitled Empower, Elevate, and Achieve, a Financial Guidebook for Women. It's a reality in our world that a lot of women at some point are going to manage the finances of their family. Due to death or divorce, women outlive men. And yet many tell us they're not confident or don't feel prepared for that role. And this webinar is designed to give you some real good tools and tips, whether you're a man or woman, but really focusing on unique issues that women face. So we hope you'll tune into that one as well. Or if you're not able to attend, let your friends know who you think might benefit. Another just point of order real quick. During this webinar, you have the ability to click on the screen and send us a question. Social Security is very complex and we can't necessarily answer specific case questions because it really depends on so many factors, but we will do our best to address the questions that are most common, as well as questions you may have. We've already received a number of questions ahead of this webinar, which tells me there's a lot of interest and a lot of questions. So without holding you up anymore, I'd like to introduce two people to you, Ryan Mickelson and Megan McCarthy Collins. They're both partners of McCarthy and Cox. They're both certified financial planners and well-versed in Social Security. So with that, Ryan, I'd like to turn the presentation over to you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Investors approaching retirement have real concerns on generating income in retirement that is sufficient and sustainable over potentially many years. And Social Security is a critical component of a comprehensive income plan in retirement. Unfortunately, many Americans have a poor understanding of Social Security benefits and often make less than optimal choices when electing benefits. During our session today, we'll examine some of the key risks in retirement, and we'll discuss how to make better decisions when electing Social Security. So our topics for today. First, we're going to go over some quick facts on Social Security. Second, we're going to identify some key risks in retirement, such as longevity, and point out how Social Security can help. And finally, we'll explore the fundamentals of a Social Security retirement system and highlight 5 important aspects people facing retirement should be aware of. So some quick facts on Social Security. They'll highlight the breadth and importance of the Social Security system. On the trust fund being exhausted in 2034 or 2035, lawmakers in Washington will have to consider certain options to improve the solvency of the system. Based on previous proposals, it's likely that some or all of the following may be implemented in some form or fashion. Increasing the retirement age for younger or middle-aged workers, increasing the amount of wages that are subject to the payroll tax, changing the inflation calculation for cost of living adjustments or the COLA, and then means testing benefits for higher income recipients. I should note also that the 4th bullet point on this slide, given the fact that the trust fund is set to run out, even if that would happen, Social Security could still pay out somewhere between 75 and 80% of scheduled benefits through the payroll taxes that they're going to continue to receive or collect. On this slide, we're going to highlight 5 key risks in retirement and how Social Security can help to mitigate those risks. The first is longevity. So Social Security provides an income stream that a retiree or a spouse cannot outlive. Second is inflation. Benefits are typically adjusted on an annual basis to account for cost of living increases. This year's increase was 1.3% over last year's benefits, and the 2020 increase was 1.6%. If we go back to 1975, the historical average is somewhere around 2.5% per year. The third risk that Social Security can help to address is markets. Benefits are not affected by volatility in the markets. Fourth is taxes. For retirees at lower income levels, Social Security benefits may be tax-free. Even for the highest income households, 15% of benefits will be tax-free, meaning that a maximum of 85% of Social Security benefits are taxable. And we have some more information on that coming up. And finally, income. So along with the longevity risk, Social Security provides a regular guaranteed stream of income, and this is especially important for retirees who may not have pensions. So let's talk about the fundamentals of Social Security. And Social Security's website at ssa.gov is a great resource to get more details on some of these things. And also, these are items that we talk regularly with our clients about. For eligibility, when you work and pay Social Security taxes, you earn credits towards Social Security benefits. The number of credits that you need to get retirement benefits depends on when you were born. If you were born in 1929 or later, which will be most of us, you need 40 credits, which equates to 10 years of work. Individual contributions. Through the Social Security payroll tax, which is currently 6.2%, workers fund Social Security. Note that employers also pay the same amount into the Social Security system, 6.2%. Payroll contributions end once an employee reaches the maximum compensation subject to Social Security taxes. The 137,700 number is from 2020. For 2021, that number is 142,800. For benefits, Social Security is based on your lifetime earnings. Your actual earnings are adjusted or indexed to account for changes in average wages since the year the earnings were received. Then Social Security calculates your average indexed monthly earnings, or AIME, during the 35 years in which you earned the most. We apply a formula to these earnings and arrive at your basic benefit or primary insurance amount. Spousal benefits. Even if he or she has never worked under Social Security, your spouse may be able to get benefits if he or she is at least 62 years of age and you are receiving or eligible for retirement benefits. A spouse receives 1/2 of the retired worker's full benefit unless the spouse begins collecting benefits before full retirement age. If the spouse begins collecting benefits before full retirement age, the amount of the spouse's benefit is reduced by a percentage based on the number of months before he or she reaches full retirement age. Additionally, there are survivor benefits as well. Your widow or widower can receive reduced benefits as early as age 60, full benefits at full retirement age or older, or benefits as early as age 50 if he or she is disabled and their disability started before or within 7 years of your death. So let's talk about full retirement age. Your full retirement age depends on when you were born, as you can see on this chart. So if you were born prior to 1954, your full retirement age is age 66. There's a phase-in period between 1955 and 1960, where it's 66 and a corresponding number of months. And for anyone born in 1960 or later, the full retirement age is 67. When you claim your benefits affects the amount of income that you'll receive. You can start your Social Security retirement benefits as early as 62 or as late as age 70. Your monthly benefit amount will be different depending on the age you start receiving it. If you choose to start your benefits early, they will be reduced based on the number of months you receive benefits before you reach your full retirement age. For example, someone retiring at age 62 today will see an approximately 25% reduction in their benefits. Additionally, you can see a change in your benefit amount if you work after you start receiving benefits. Some of your benefits may be withheld if you have excess earnings. Note that earnings refers to wages from a job, not other income such as investment income or pension income. At full retirement age, the earnings limit no longer applies. Regardless of your wages, Social Security will not withhold any of your benefits. Also, after full retirement age, you can receive a lump sum payment of no more than 6 months. For example, let's assume you file for Social Security benefits once you reach age 67. You have the option of receiving 6 months of benefits in a lump sum, and future benefits will be applied based on a retirement age of 66 and a half. If you file 3 months after you turn 66 and want a lump sum payment, you can receive a lump sum payment of 3 months. Also, if you originally filed for early benefits prior to full retirement age, at full retirement age, you can voluntarily suspend benefits. Once you restart benefits as late as age 70, your monthly benefit will be higher depending on how long benefits were voluntarily suspended. It's important to note that if you suspend benefits, any spousal benefits being paid will be suspended as well. Delayed retirement. Retirees have the option of delaying Social Security benefits past their full retirement age and will receive an 8% raise for each year and will get credit for any cost of living adjustments as well. This may be a good strategy to hedge longevity risk. Note that these delayed retirement credits are only applicable to the worker's own benefit, not spousal or survivor benefits. There is no gain from delaying spousal or survivor benefits past the full retirement age. Spousal benefits are an important component of Social Security, so it's important to know how they work. Even if you have never worked under Social Security, you may be able to get spouse's retirement benefit if you're at least 62 years of age and your spouse is receiving retirement or disability benefits. The spousal benefit can be as much as half of the worker's primary insurance amount, depending on the spouse's age at retirement. If the spouse begins receiving benefits before normal or full retirement age, the spouse will receive a reduced benefit. If a spouse is eligible for a retirement benefit based on his or her own earnings, and that benefit is higher than the spousal benefit, then Social Security pays the retirement benefit. Otherwise, Social Security pays the spousal benefit. So basically, it's the higher of the two amounts. Spousal benefits are not available until the working spouse files for his or her own benefit. This will trigger the availability of the spousal benefit. Also, the spousal benefit is based on the primary insurance amount of the other spouse when spousal benefits start. For example, if a wife begins spousal benefit before her full retirement age, those benefits will be reduced. If the wife waits until full retirement age to begin spousal benefits, the amount will be equal to 50% of what the husband was eligible to receive at his full retirement age, regardless of when he actually begins to collect his own benefit. Now let's shift our focus to 5 things that you need to know about Social Security, and Megan's going to take us from here.
The decision on when to take Social Security can feel really overwhelming, but things that people really should consider is that it may be beneficial to delay. The reality is most people do claim benefits earlier than their full retirement age. Roughly 65% of people receiving Social Security chose to start benefits before they reach that full retirement age point. Sometimes the reason is they say, well, I may not live to see the benefit. A lot of times we underestimate our life expectancy. We also need to really consider that the benefits that we receive when we start Social Security earlier, they can be significantly lower than if we delay starting benefits to when we are older. Also, when people are working and they are earning income above the threshold for the earnings test, they may be penalized, but not know it until after the fact, after they've started their Social Security benefits. You may likely also to have your have your benefits taxed at a higher rate or more than otherwise needed, depending on other income that you're receiving. And a lot of times, once you've made your decision for Social Security, it may be too late to make a change. Thinking about how and when to take your benefit before you start is a really crucial thing for people entering retirement and an area where we can really assist. So a lot of people will ask us, well, how much does it really pay to wait? Is there a benefit? And the number that Ryan mentioned, you receive an 8% pay raise each year that you delay starting your Social Security benefit. Here we really see the dispersion on when people start. I found it interesting or a little surprising that 41% of people receiving Social Security started at age 62 and very few waited until age 70. And the difference can be really meaningful when we look at over your life expectancy, not only for you, but also if you're married or have, and you're looking at 2 spouses' lifetime's earning potential. The benefit between age 62 and age 70 can almost double. And so it really becomes a coordination of what is your need for income, what piece of the pie does Social Security solve for, and one that we often underestimate its importance, but it can be really meaningful for most retirees, and it's an important decision to take seriously. I mentioned just a moment ago, a lot of times we focus on, well, when I reach 62, I'm going to start Social Security. And if I have a partner, if I have a spouse, not always taking into consideration the lifetime benefit for both of us and both of our life expectancies. Historically, higher earning spouses take Social Security earlier because it has a higher potential benefit than somebody who has less earnings under Social Security. But that really means that not only have I taken a lower benefit for myself during my lifetime, but also should my spouse survive me, they also may have a lower level of income for their lifetime as well. It's really important to think when you're planning for retirement and Social Security, not only based on your own life expectancy, but that of you and your spouse. How can we potentially maximize the life expectancy for both people versus just one? Especially if longevity comes into play, and that's what most of Social Security is. Having that maximum lifetime earning potential through Social Security to supplement other income can be really meaningful. Now, here's some different changes that have taken place in the past with Social Security. Over time, there's been tweaks and updates to the choices that we have in filing for Social Security benefits. And so the two mentioned here on the screen are a file and suspend strategy and a restricted application. There was a law passed back in 2015 that really aimed to phase out these two opportunities that really gave people potentially more benefits. So file and suspend is something that really is no longer applicable or available for retirees today based on how it was phased out. And the restricted application may be available if you were born in just the right year and qualify, but we find many people have already filed for benefits that could utilize this option. So the restricted application, where it was meaningful, is where couples had similar incomes. And the idea is that the older spouse waits until they've reached their full retirement age and restricts a claim to their spousal benefits. So one spouse files and the older spouse takes a benefit once the younger files, and they're able to take an income stream from Social Security because it was restricted. And then once that older spouse reached age 70, they were able to turn on their own benefit, which was accumulating those delayed credits and was increasing. So when we looked at the big picture between the different strategies, there was potentially more income from Social Security versus if they just took a single benefit based on their own life and their own earnings or a spousal benefit. Unfortunately, this is really being phased out, but it's an important question to ask is there an opportunity for me to file for Social Security with my spouse in a way that doesn't jump off the page here with the statement that we get from Social Security? And this is an important part of planning, and working with someone knowledgeable can be meaningful for your retirement. Ryan's going to talk a little bit here now about some special rules and things to consider for those who are divorced or widow and widowers, because that can impact your Social Security decisions as well.
Thanks, Megan. We spent some considerable time talking about strategies for couples, so let's shift to individuals, specifically divorced and widowed individuals. In the case of divorce, special rules apply. If certain requirements are met, a divorced individual can claim benefits based on an ex-spouse's earning record, regardless if that ex-spouse has filed for benefits yet. This is different than for married couples. If an individual has been married to multiple ex-spouses for at least 10 years each, he or she has the choice of which ex-spouse to base Social Security benefits on. Unlike others, widows, including ex-spouses, can claim Social Security survivor benefits as early as age 60, but that does entail a reduction in those benefits. Megan's earlier point, these are specific cases that have a lot of nuance to them, so we would recommend that you meet with us or someone like us to discuss your specific case and how these rules apply. Some more details on survivor's benefits. based on the relationship to the worker. Widow or widower who has reached full retirement age can receive 100% of the primary worker's Social Security benefit. As a widow or widower, if that person draws early, at least age 60, but prior to full retirement age, they may receive between 71.5% to 99% of the primary worker's full retirement age amount. A widow or widower who's caring for a child under age 16 or is disabled can receive 75%, and the child under age 16 can also receive 75%. Should note also that these benefits are subject to a family maximum. We get this question a lot. There's a good chance that your Social Security benefit will be taxed. I have one household that I can think of where there are 2 Social Security checks, which represent the majority of the household income, and that couple has the fortunate situation of paying no tax on any of their Social Security benefits. That's the exception rather than the rule, unfortunately. Most of us will pay tax on some piece of our Social Security benefits. For retirees with a moderate or higher income, there's a good chance that at least some portion will be included as taxable income and shown on the tax return. There are 2 different income thresholds for determining taxation of benefits. The income calculation, which is known as combined income, includes your adjusted gross income plus non-taxable interest, which would come from municipal bonds, 1/2 of your Social Security benefits added to those 2 things, and that includes or counts as your combined income. I'd like to let you know too that we have a calculator that we use frequently to estimate how much of your Social Security benefit may be taxable based on the specific inputs for your household. So I'm going to kick it back to Megan now to take us on to point number 5.
Thanks, Ryan. The 5th thing to really know about Social Security is how it coordinates with with government pensions. This is something a lot of people may not realize, but Social Security benefits do get coordinated to where if you have a pension where you didn't pay into Social Security, but maybe you worked prior to or in conjunction with that public service where you did pay into Social Security, the 2 do get coordinated to where the benefits can offset each other, whether it's you yourself that paid into Social Security and then had a separate pension where you didn't, or maybe you worked fully under Social Security or under a government pension and your spouse worked fully under Social Security. As a survivor with the different benefits available to you, there's also a coordination there. So it can be pretty confusing and get your eyes crossed while you're thinking about these 2 provisions. So let's take it one at a time. The first pension consideration is called this windfall elimination provision, called the WEP. So it impacts those who are eligible for Social Security, but they're also receiving a pension from a job where Social Security benefits were not withheld. They didn't pay into Social Security. So think of your state of Ohio, different public pension systems. So there's a coordination based on how many years you've paid into Social Security with the size of your public pension. So here, your benefits can be reduced from Social Security, but typically, or they're actually not totally eliminated. Social Security doesn't include that WEP calculation on your statement that you receive in the mail, primarily because they don't have the detail and data on your actual government pension. But looking at those 2 pieces together is meaningful as it relates to planning for your retirement income. Nobody likes a last minute surprise after you've made decisions to retire. Knowing ahead of time lets you create a game plan. The second is called the government pension offset. And so this applies to workers who are applying for a spousal or survivor benefit, so they're applying for Social Security benefit, not from their own earnings history, but from their spouses. But they also receive a government pension from their own work history. And there's a formula, there's a calculation where 2/3 of the government pension is subtracted from the Social Security benefit they otherwise would have had. And that difference, if any, is the Social Security that is received. In this instance, with the government pension offset, depending on how healthy your pension benefit is and the size of the spouse's Social Security benefit, the Social Security could be completely wiped out and they would be eliminated, that benefit. So here's how we translate that to an example. So if we assume here that Andy was a worker who had Social Security benefits of $1,500, he also had a monthly pension of $1,000. Because of the coordination with that windfall elimination provision, the Social Security benefit for Andy is reduced by $434 a month. So the net benefit is just over $1,000. There's no reduction to the monthly pension, but the Social Security amount is reduced. The government pension offset, how we see that illustrated is here if we assume that John has a monthly benefit from Social Security of $2,000. Martha's spousal benefit, his wife, is $1,000 a month. Martha also has a monthly pension from public service that's $900 a month. So here's that calculation in practice. We take the spousal benefit of $1,000 minus 2/3 for public pension, which is $600. And so Martha's spousal Social Security benefit becomes $400 a month instead of the $1,000 a month she would have received if she didn't have that government monthly pension. Ready to close this out, right?
Thanks, Megan. So just in closing, Social Security is a critical component of an effective retirement income plan, one of the main sources of income for most of our retirees. And understanding and making the right decisions around taking Social Security can be a big driver of your financial success or lack thereof. This may seem self-serving, but we would highly recommend that you work with your financial advisor to assess your personal situation. Obviously, it's difficult for us to get into the weeds on any specific situations here with a broad audience, but we'd be more than glad to discuss these things with you on an individual basis. I imagine there are some of you listening in today and watching who we've already had some of these conversations. So I think we have some questions from the audience and previously submitted. Tom's going to run us through some of those now.
And I would remind anyone who's on this webinar, if you can send in your questions, we'll do our best to address them as well. We have a number of questions and I hope we can get through all of them. So I'll take them in the order in which we received them. One of the questions we received is, and Megan or Ryan, either of you are free to answer this question. I'm still a little confused about spousal benefits. Do spouses get their own benefits?
So great question. A lot of the terms with Social Security start to sound alike. So when you're applying with a spouse, we would encourage you to look at the opportunity to file a benefit based on your own earnings records or a spousal benefit. And typically you're going to pick the greater of the two. So you may find that depending on your work history, if you and your spouse, your own benefit provides more income and it's a higher number for you, you typically would choose that option. So if the spousal benefit at one half of your own provides a higher benefit than maybe your spouse had based on her own work history, that would be beneficial for you. Do you want to add anything?
Our next question is, I'm currently receiving Social Security based on my wife's record, and we went back 6 months and collected a lump sum. When I apply for mine with me as the primary, can I go back and get another 6 months? I honestly don't know. I think that's a great question. And my sense is they're not going to let you double dip like that, but we certainly would uh, work with you and we would contact Social Security's office and get you the right answer. But my guess is it's a good thing, but not that good. Our next question is a really basic one, but there's so much confusion. What's the difference between what you mean spousal benefits or survivor benefits? Aren't they the same?
I'll take that one. So spousal benefits are made assuming that your spouse is still living, and survivor has the implication that they have passed away. And so some of those rules are different for widows and widowers versus surviving spouses and those who have a spouse that's still living.
So they are not the same. And that's where a lot of this confusion comes from. Another question we received was, did I understand that the 8% annual increase continues after I receive my full retirement age until I reach age 70 if I'm not taking a benefit? So in other words, if I really want the biggest check, should I wait until age 70? Question mark.
Since my last one was a softball, I'll take that one too. So yes, the short answer is yes. If you really want the biggest check, you should wait until age 70, but there are other considerations to that question. And it primarily has to do with longevity. Of course, none of us knows the day or the time that we're appointed to leave the earth, but if your family history and your personal health point to a situation where you're likely to live a long time, that would absolutely be your best answer. But as you saw from the chart in the presentation, statistically, very few people do that. There are also considerations as to what's the drawdown on your other accounts or investments in the meantime if you defer, and things like that. So it's not just a one issue question. Always needs to be considered in the context of the overall situation.
This is a question we received earlier. I have always been advised to wait as long as possible before starting to collect Social Security, but it seems very few people really do wait. What scenarios is it really advisable to collect Social Security early?
You may have heard, we've said it a couple of times today, that the core of Social Security and when to file really is primarily a longevity question. And so there is a threshold to where it pays to wait. If you know, based on a personal health history or a health diagnosis, that longevity is not currently in your favor, it may behoove you to file earlier. But it really is a multi-layer type of question. If you can afford to wait, Social Security does increase by 8% each year. If the fact pattern of either market performance or other investments or just drawdown as things have come up don't allow you to wait, probably doesn't make sense to go broke waiting to start Social Security, because the chart set a maximum amount at a later point in time. So a combination of longevity, your own family health history, as well as other assets, putting those together, it can feel overwhelming. But we do use a tool that helps look at your scenario, the options available to you with Social Security, to help try and maximize that benefit for you, and at least understand the potential benefits of waiting later versus taking now. Is there a meaningful difference for you, and is it worth it?
Real quickly too, just to add, Social Security, when they send out your projected benefit statement, or if you go online to get that, it'll give you the three benchmark benefit ages. It'll give you the 62 benefit, the full retirement age, and then the age 70, the delayed benefit. Be aware that those are not the only three ages at which you can start to collect benefits. And I found in working with a number of retiree clients that a common approach in our planning is to sort of set a target based on the facts of the specific case, but when they approach 62, to take a look at the specifics right then and make a decision. And that decision may be, let's wait another year and see how things are going at that time. So you could start to draw at 3, 4, any age that was appropriate for you, and those benefits would be essentially prorated from that 62 point forward.
I just received a question. The question was, what's in my bottle? Is that a shot of Jack D you're taking? No, I got to tell you, this is iced tea. It's only 12:30, but I guess if I didn't have to see clients, I might consider an adult beverage, but this is really pure leaf iced tea. Another question we received is, I'm just concerned that there won't be any benefits for me in Social Security. Is it really worth the risk of waiting?
I'll go. That's not a question we can answer specifically, whether it's worth the risk or not. That's obviously going to be a personal decision. But to the points that we made earlier, there are a number of potential solutions that Social Security, the system, could implement in order to keep fully solvent and able to pay 100% of scheduled benefits. It's a bit of a difficult nut to crack from the standpoint that it's not popular to change retirement benefits, particularly Social Security. So I think it has been delayed and is likely to be delayed until closer to the time when the trust fund runs out, unfortunately. But again, to a point that was made earlier, even if the trust fund runs out, Social Security will still be in a position to pay out between 75 and 80% of scheduled benefits, even if they do nothing and the system goes completely, I hate to say bankrupt, but essentially that. Now, 75 to 80% is not 100%. That's a material decrease, but it's not nothing either. So to those that say, I don't think Social Security will be there when I get to my retirement age, we would disagree with that, at least in part.
This is a question we received also a little before the presentation. My wife is a teacher. Does she get a part of my Social Security benefits if I die? I think we talked a little bit about the workshop, but just to clarify, how will that work?
Yeah. So in that scenario, assuming it's a teacher's pension that she did not pay into Social Security, because that rule can change from pension system to pension system, state to state, as to if they pay in or not. In the state of Ohio, it's common for teachers not to pay into Social Security. So in that scenario, that government pension offset comes into play. And so just as a reminder, you take your own Social Security benefit minus 2/3 of her teacher benefit. And the difference, if anything is left over, it's a positive number she would receive upon your passing from Social Security. If it's negative, the good news is they don't send you a bill for the difference. But the downside is that if it is negative, then there would not be a Social Security benefit.
This is a really common question we get, and because it applies no matter what age someone's applying. One of our participants asked, my full retirement age is 66 and 6 months. I actually want to retire at 65. My birthday is in July. When exactly do I file for benefits to get my benefits started in July?
I kind of heard two questions in there potentially, but as far as when to file for benefits, you can file up to 3 months before you intend for your benefits to start, and you actually will have a choice when you go through the process to define when you want that first payment to kick in. I actually was on the Social Security website with a client just about a week ago, initiating benefits, which can be done all online in most cases. In some that are a little more detailed or nuanced that involve disability or spousal or things like that, it may still be appropriate to meet in person with someone from Social Security, but most benefits can be applied for online. And in that process, there's a question about which month you intend for your benefits to start. So they actually make that fairly cut and dried for you these days.
So the bottom line is we'll help you. My wife is currently receiving Social Security disability income. I'm 58 and a half. How will this scenario affect us when I file for Social Security? Didn't say when he was going to file, but let's assume it's at age 62. What would that mean?
Sure. So essentially, the disability benefit is in many ways like an accelerated retirement benefit. You get it earlier because disability qualifies. And so in terms of a spouse, in the particular case, just from what was asked, it sounds like two different sets of benefits available. And so what the one spouse who's on disability does shouldn't have many implications for the spouse who hasn't yet claimed. There potentially could be, again, we don't know the numbers involved or things like that, a potential to do spousal benefits or things like that. But the disability benefit is likely to be a higher amount than a spousal benefit because essentially it's, again, an accelerated full retirement age benefit. So the spouse who has yet to claim should just take a look at their own situation. Does it make sense for them to draw it right at 62 when eligible under normal circumstances, or to go ahead and defer until some point further down the road? But it's unlikely that there would be a spousal election in this particular case, again, depending on the numbers.
This is an interesting question. I'm a widow from my second marriage. I've been drawing a survivor's Social Security benefit. I just learned that my first spouse has died. And a friend told me I might be able to get a bigger Social Security check from his benefit than my second husband. Can I really draw a survivor Social Security benefit for my first spouse, even though we've been divorced for 20 years? And if I do draw a benefit, I don't want to hurt his most recent spouse. Would it affect her in any way?
So I'll work backwards. If in the event of filing as a widow or a divorced widow, you're filing for a benefit based on your previous spouse's earning record. So your spouse's past does not impact other marriages that they've had, any other widows or other divorced people from filing on that earner's benefit. So in this instance, you wouldn't necessarily be taking money away from this other woman. She would still be able to receive a benefit that she could file for, would be otherwise eligible for. And the key determiner is that you have to be married for at least 10 years to your first husband. And if that benefit is higher than the one you're currently drawing, you could be eligible for a higher one.
So I guess Johnny Carson's ex-wives, I don't know how many he had, 5 or 6 of them. They're all doing pretty well, it sounds like. Here's another one. My wife recently passed. I'm just age 60. Is it true I can draw a survivor's benefit now at age 62, or should I wait and switch over to my own benefit later? How does this work?
So that's a great question, and it actually does bring some options into play. And so I think the question was, can I draw a spousal benefit or a survivor benefit, at 62? In that case, it would actually be as early as age 60, would be a reduced amount, but that would be the earliest eligibility for a survivor benefit. So what someone in that case may do, and I've had clients do this, I have some who are doing it now, is take that survivor benefit at 60 or some earlier point, go ahead and get some income from that, defer your own benefit until full retirement age or some point down the line when you can collect a higher amount. And you can defer as long as you want. You wouldn't want to go past 70 because there's no increase past that age, but you can collect a more modest benefit for a number of years and then switch and collect a significantly higher benefit on your own record down the road in that case. So that's a great potential opportunity to try to maximize what you can get in total out of Social Security.
Okay, we just have a couple more questions. So if there's a question on your mind, and we have, if not, we'll be wrapping this up soon. But the next question is, and I think Ryan, you talked about this, but I'm still confused. Will my Social Security be taxed or not? I've heard it both ways.
There's always that after I do you do it. So it really depends. There is as many things with the IRS. There's a formula to follow, and so there are people who receive Social Security that is tax free. Some people's Social Security is taxed. Only half of their Social Security is taxed. The other half is tax free income for them. Many people as well only have 85% of their Social Security as taxable income, and they have 15% that they receive that's completely tax-free. So the formula is that we add up all your income from other sources, including tax-free interest, like from municipal bonds, plus 1/2 of your Social Security. And then there's an IRS chart, whether you're an individual or filing on married joint return, that puts you into those different categories. So it's an answer or non-answer. It depends. Some people do receive tax-free Social Security. Worst case, 15% remains tax-free, but the other 85% would get taxed right along all your other income sources that you have.
You guys have done a good job fielding these questions on the fly. I've got one final one. This is all very confusing. Do you have some sort of software or report that you can help me make sense out of all of these moving parts?
Yeah, so Megan mentioned earlier, there's an optimizer program that we can run. Any of these tools, I should note, involve certain assumptions. We have to make an assumption of how long you may live, how long your spouse may live, what each of the benefits involved may be, take into account any government pensions or non-Social Security covered work, things like that. So there's a number of variables to it, but we do have programs that can help to generate scenarios for you that we can review together and help you decide based on the facts of your specific case, what may be your best option. The other is, as we were just talking about the taxation of Social Security and so forth, we do have a calculator that we use commonly for that as well. And again, we can put in the inputs for what have you received from a pension, what have you received from your IRA or 401k, maybe some part-time work, all those other sources of income, and then the tool will estimate how much of your Social Security you may have to pay taxes on. So those are things we use commonly with clients, and if you'd like to have us run them for you, just talk to us about it in your next meeting.
Well, I think you must have done a pretty good job because we're out of questions. We have just 10 minutes left, so we'll be wrapping this up quickly. I will share two thoughts as we conclude this. Number one, we record these webinars and we'll be making them available on our website. So if you want to review it again, or if you have someone who you wish could have been part of this webinar today, please share that link with them and they can participate after the fact. Secondly, this is a very complex issue, and it's yet one that for most retirees will be a significant part of your retirement income. We really do encourage you to ask your current advisor, and of course, we're available to you as well, to get an expert opinion. Take into account your health situation and do some analysis of your longevity risk. You know, the thing a lot of people worry about when it comes to Social Security is, if I wait, will I live long enough to get enough money out of it? The reality is, the biggest risk you face isn't that you will die too soon, but that you'll live too long. And planning for longevity is something that many of us don't take serious enough, and something that I really hope that you do. So with that, I'll just remind you that our next webinar is going to be in August, on Wednesday, August 18th. That webinar is going to focus on the unique challenges many women face with their finances and give you some real good suggestions and tips. And we're bringing in a national speaker to do that, sponsored by Putnam Investments. So please mark your calendar, look for that invitation. And as always, we're here to serve you. We appreciate that opportunity and we welcome your questions. So with that, have a great day and thanks for being here today.